Okay, so before anything else, requesting everyone to please stand. And for our prayer, may I request Mr. Alicot lead us in a word of prayer.
Okay, so let us pray. Dear God, we open the doors wide of our school and invite you in. Please be in our lessons and help us to concentrate and learn. Watch over us as we share, play, and laugh together. You love us all. And when we come together, amazing and very special things happen. Thank you for our school and thank you for our teacher. Amen.
Amen. Good morning, everyone! Good morning! Okay, so before anything else, who wants to have a short energizer? Okay, so may I request everyone to please stand and let us extend our body first before we proceed to our next topic. So the title of this song is There Was a Tree. So here is the lyrics of this song. Follow me, ha? Okay, go. There was a tree, the finest tree that I ever did see, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Next is the branch. There was a branch, the finest branch that I ever did see, and the branch was on the tree, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Next is the twig. There was a twig, the finest twig that I ever did see, and the twig was on the branch, and the branch was on the tree, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Next is the nest. There was a nest, the finest nest that I ever did see, and the nest was on the twig, and the twig was on the branch, and the branch was on the tree, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Next was the bird. There was a bird, the finest bird that I ever did see, and the bird was on the nest, and the nest was on the twig, and the twig was on the branch, and the branch was on the tree, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Last is the egg. There was an egg, the finest egg that I ever did see, and the egg was on the bird, and the bird was on the nest, and the nest was on the twig, and the twig was on the branch, and the branch was on the tree, and the tree was on the ground where the green grass grows all around. Okay, so give yourself a round of applause, please. Yay! Okay, so who's absent? Very good! Everyone is present for today. Before anything else, I want you all to pass your assignments to the front and arrange your chairs properly. Let us proceed to our new topic. Our new topic for today is all about ecosystem. So who has an idea about ecosystem? Yes, Miss Kurilan. Very good. Let's give her a round of applause. I am going to show you a picture and you observe what is in the picture. In a 1/4 sheet of paper, I want you to make a T-chart, and on the picture, I want you to observe and identify what are the things that belong to the biotic or living things and abiotic or non-living things. So now, time's up. I want you all to pass your papers to the front. Very good. Now, let us proceed to our topic. So, our topic for today is about ecosystem. So, there are two factors of ecosystem. First is the biotic and the second is the abiotic. So, what is biotic? Biotic comes from the word bio, which means life or living organisms. Abiotic comes from the word abio or non-living organisms. So the example of biotic are the bacteria, plants, animals. So those are the example of biotic. And the example of the abiotic are the water, the soil, and atmosphere, which are the non-living things. The environment is a collection of living and non-living things. Mosses grown on rocks, garden snails gliding fences, and fish swimming underwater, and are few examples of how living and non-living things interact. So, I have a question for you. What do we call the living components of the environment? Very good. The living components of the environment are called organisms. Take note of that. Organisms. The non-living components make a physical environment of this organism. Organisms that belong to the same species and live in the same place from a population. It is a population that live in the same place and interact with each other. What is this? Okay, Mr. Ronario. Nice answer. Community is a population that live in the same place, interact with each other. Now let us proceed to the ecological relationship. So, ecological relationship. In the environment, there are plants, animals, and microscopic organisms such as bacteria and fungi. Who has an idea what are bacteria and fungi? Yes? Okay, very good. So, bacteria and fungi, these are organisms that are present anywhere. So, a group of organisms of the same living and the same place at the same time are called population. Which of these things are living things and which of these are non-living things? So I want you to give me an example of living and non-living things. Yes, Mr. Ellicott. Very good. How about you, Mr. Siladan? Very good. So, the living things include the insects, animals, and plants. And the non-living things include the rocks, soil, and the water. So, observe the things that you identified as living. What do they have in common? Nice idea. Insects move and that both the insects and plants respond to stimuli. So, aphids are small insects that suck liquid containing sugar from the conducting tissues of plants. So, the interaction between the population of ants and aphids is referred to as mutualism. So, take note of that, mutualism. The epiphytes are the plants that depend on the other plants for support. So, usually epiphytes grown on the trunks and the branches of the tree. So, okay, so let us proceed to our second activity. So, I want you to group yourselves into 4 and provide a clean sheet of paper. Okay, so, all good? So, let's proceed. So, the mechanics of this game are, this activity is true or false. If the statement is correct, I want you to write true. And if the statement is wrong or incorrect, I want you to write false. So, write your answer in a sheet of paper that you have provided. I will give you 5 seconds only to answer every question. So, after 5 seconds, show us your answer finish or not. Okay? Agree? Very good. Every question is worth 5 points. So, do your best, guys. Okay, so, are we all good? Now, let us proceed to our questions. Okay, question number 1. The environment is a collection of living and non-living things. True or false? Again, the environment is a collection of living and non-living things. True or false? 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Very good. So, I want you all to raise your papers. Okay, group 1 and group 2 got the correct answer. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, let us proceed to question number 2. The living components of the environment are also called organisms. Again, the living components of the environment are also called organisms. True or false? 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Raise your papers. Very good. So Group 1 and Group 3 got the correct answer. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so let us proceed to the question number 3. Group 4. Okay, let's proceed to question number 3. The animals that kills the other animals is called prey. Again, the animals that kills other animals is called prey. Okay, your 5 seconds starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. So, raise your papers. Okay, Group 4 got the correct answer. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so now let us proceed to question number 4. Okay, so here is the question. Organisms that feed on other organisms are called predator. Again, organisms that feed on other organism are called predator. True or false? Your timer starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Very good. Everyone got the correct answer. So, let's give ourselves a round of applause. Now, let us proceed to question number 5. So, an animals that is killed and eaten is called predator. Again, an animal that is killed and eaten is called predator. True or false? Your timer starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. Time's up. Time's up, everyone. Raise your papers. Okay. Everyone got the correct answer. So, very good, guys. Job well done. Okay, the winner for our activity is the Group 1. Very good, Group 1. So, now let us proceed. Animals kill and eat other animals. Is this possible? Very good. Yes, it is. Animals kill and eat other animals. This interaction is called the predation. An animals that kills the other animals is called a predator. And an animals that is killed and eaten by its predator is called a prey. Prey animals are usually smaller and less powerful than the predator that eats them. In a given community, predators compete with other predators for prey animals. In the wild, a predator's prey may be another prey's predator. This means that while an animal hunts and feeds upon another animal, it can also become prey to a larger and stronger predator. When two populations use the same resource, they participate in a biological interaction called competition. Resources for which different populations compete include food, nesting sites, habitat, light, nutrients, and water. Usually, competition occurs for resources in short supply. Now, let us proceed to energy transfers in the ecosystem. So, why does an organism eat another organism? Nice answer. Plants, animals, and microorganisms must obtain energy and enable them to move, grow, and repair the damage of their body parts. And, of course, to reproduce. Plants are capable of converting energy from the sun into chemical energy in the form of glucose or their food. This process is called photosynthesis. Take note of that. This process called photosynthesis. It uses water, carbon dioxide, and what? Yes, Mr. Siladan? Very good, sunlight. Most plants make much more food each day than they need. Excess glucose is converted into starch by the plants and is stored either in the roots or stems, leaves, tubers, seeds, or in fruits. Why plants are considered producers? Very good. Are plants the only organism in an ecosystem that can produce their own food? Very good. So, now let us proceed. There are also microorganisms that can be photosynthesized. So, these are the examples. So, how do animals and humans obtain energy to keep them alive? Again, I will ask you a question. How do animals and humans obtain energy to keep them alive? Okay, humans and other animals are not capable of making their own food. They are dependent on the organic matter made by photosynthetic organisms. So, this organism that includes the plants and some microorganisms are considered as producers. So, animals and humans must eat either plants or other animals to obtain energy. Organisms that feed on other organisms are called the consumers. So, those that get their energy by eating plants only are called first order consumer or the herbivores. So, in this picture, which organisms are being eaten? Which organisms are the consumers? And in your community, what other organisms do you know that eat plants only? Very good. So, some energy in the first consumer is not used by the consumer itself. This energy is made available to another consumer. A consumer that eats the plant's eaters for energy is called the second order consumer. So, I will give you some of the examples. So, which organism provide energy to the snake and chicken? Very good. A second order consumer gets only a fraction of energy from the first order consumer that it fed upon. A part of this energy is stored and may be passed on to another consumer. A consumer that eats second order consumer is called the third order consumer. Examples of which are shown this picture. Human beings are the example of the third order consumer. Okay, class, so I want you to pay attention and I will play a video about the cycles of food chain and food web. So, I want you to keep quiet and analyze what is in the video. So, later, I will ask you some questions regarding to the video. So, thank you so much.
Hello friends, welcome to Let's Do It. Previously on Ecosystem, let's continue knowing about the ecosystem. Where do we get the energy to do different work? Yes, it is from the food that we eat. Food is a source of energy for all living organisms. And to obtain this energy, they depend on other organisms and plants. And that's how our ecosystem functions. Consider this. Grasshopper feeds or depends on the grass to obtain their food. This grasshopper is in turn eaten by the frog. The frog is eaten by the snake, and the snake is eaten by the eagle. Here, the grass is a producer. It obtains the energy from the sun to produce its own food. And all other organisms which feed on each other are the consumers. Thus, a series of organisms that eat one another, resulting in the flow of energy from one organism to the other, is called a food chain. Many such food chains exist in the ecosystem. One organism can be food for many. Let's understand this. Many worms feed on the same grass. The worms are eaten by the frogs and hen. If you carefully notice, the hen feeds on grains too. But this frog and hen are both eaten by the eagle. Here, if you see, multiple food chains are formed, and these interconnecting food chains are called food web. Few important things that we have to understand here are that sun is the driving force for all. Every food chain begins with a producer. Depending on the number of organisms involved in a food chain, the order of consumers too vary. Like, the food chain that we began with was the longest and had consumers starting from primary to secondary to tertiary and quaternary. But if you see the food chain with hen and eagle, it is the shortest with only primary and secondary consumers. In this food web, if you consider the hen, it feeds on both grain and worm. That is, it obtains energy from the food of both plant and animal source, and hence is an omnivore. Observe eagle in our example. In all the food chains, it is a predator, meaning it only feeds on other organisms. It is not a food or prey for any other organism, right? Such organisms are called apex consumers or predators. They are always at the highest point in the food chain. But what happens to these apex consumers then? They ultimately die and are decomposed by the next set of biotic component, that is, decomposers. And the components are added back to the soil. Each type of ecosystem has such food chains and food webs functioning that help in the transfer of energy. Fascinating, isn't it? The next time you eat something, remember you too are being part of some food chain.
Let's proceed. The transfer of energy can be sequenced. The sequence of energy transfer among organisms to obtain energy and nutrients is called food chain. So here is the example of food chain. A food chain starts with the energy source, which is the sun. Very good. The next link in the food chain is a group of organisms that make their own food, or the photosynthetic organisms, producers. Next in the sequence are the organisms that it's the producers. So there are the first order consumer. The next link in the food chain is the group of animals that eat the first order consumer. They are the second order consumers. These organisms in turn are eaten by larger animals or the predators. They are also called third order consumer, which food chain ends with the top predator, an animal with no natural enemies. So that is the food chain. So it starts with the energy source, which is the sun. Next is the second order consumer, the first order consumer rather. Next is the second order consumer, and last is the third order consumer. So that is the predator. When plants and animals die, the energy in their bodies can be transferred to another group of organisms. Consumers that look for and eat dead animals or plants are considered as scavengers. So, houseflies, cockroaches, and maggots and ants are the example of scavengers. So, earthworms feed on dead grass and leaves. If they are above ground, they also feed on fruits, berries, and vegetables. If they are under the soil, so earthworms may feed on algae, fungi, and bacteria. Once the scavengers are done with eating a dead organisms, the decomposers or microorganisms take over and consume whatever was left by the scavengers. So, decomposers consume any dead plants and animals. So, they are different kinds of decomposers performing different functions in the ecosystem. So, some groups of bacteria refers breaking down meat or waste from the consumers that eat meat.
Sige.
Okay, class. What do you see on bread or rice that had been kept for some time? Yes? Miss Kurilan? Okay, they have molds. Very good. Sometimes, you see a trunk on a tree with mushrooms growing on it. These are fungi and they are decomposers. They prefer to grow on starchy food, fruits, vegetables, and dead plants. Okay, so before we proceed, I want you to get 1/2 crosswise. And in a 1/2 crosswise, I want you to describe the difference of consumer and producers. So, what are the difference of consumers and producers? And then, what is parasitism? Number 2, what is parasitism? Number 1, describe the difference of consumers and producers. Number 2, what is parasitism? Number 3 is what is photosynthesis? So, and lastly, number 4, what is scavenger? Scavenger. So, I want you to write that on your 1/2 sheet of paper. And then, after 10 minutes, I will be right back and I will check your paper. Okay? That's good. Okay, are you done? Very good. So pass your paper to the front. In a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good. So focus here. Microorganisms that includes bacteria and fungi break down proteins, starches, and other complex organic substances that were once part of living things. During the process of decomposition, decomposer release nutrients from the organic material back into the soil, making the soil available to plants and other producers. Okay, so energy transfer in an ecosystem follows a process. The ultimate source of energy for all living things is the sun. The producers of the ecosystem take energy from sunlight and convert it to the chemical energy. Very good. This energy is passed on the consumers and then back to the decomposers. The energy flows only in one direction. It is not cycled back. So, it is not counterclockwise. So, next is, in contrast, the materials in the form of nutrients needed by living things are recycled between organism and the environment. So, these materials are used up by the producers to make other forms of materials. They are cycled among the consumers and finally returned to the environment by the decomposers. Energy flows, the materials are cycled in the ecosystem. We live in a dynamic world indeed. So, okay, so let's proceed to our next activity. So, this activity is by group. So, I want you all to group yourselves into 4. So, you will be the group 1, group 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, Miss Kurilan. 2, Mr. Siladan. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we good? Okay, so, in a count of 5, I want you to go to your group. So, this would be the group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4 at the back. So, In a count of 5, go to your group in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, all set? Are we good? Okay, so very good. Now, let us proceed to the mechanics. So, this activity entitled 3D model. So, in a 1/4 illustration board, make a 3D model of cycles of food chain and label each. So, make it clean and neat. So, make it neat and clean. Okay, so here are the criteria for this activity. So, uniqueness 50% and the cleanliness is 50% with a total of 100%. Very good. Okay, class. Are we good? All done? Okay, so very good. So, I want you all to pass your outputs to the front. Okay, so now, let us recap our discussion for this day. So, what is our topic for today? For 5 points. Yes? Very good. Our topic for today is all about ecosystem. So, the level of biological organization beyond the organism is the population, which is a group of organisms of the same species living together. Groups of population form a what? Community. Very good. Okay, so biotic communities that interact with the physical environment is called what? Ecosystem. Very good. All ecosystem on Earth form the biosphere, the realm on Earth where life exists. In the ecosystem, biotic components interact with one another and also interact with the abiotic factors. Ecological relationships include mutualism, commensalism, parasitism, competition, and predation. Very good. So, energy flows in the ecosystem in one-way path. So, the radiant energy from the sun is converted into chemical energy. So, of food by plants. Very good. This is transferred to a series of consumers in a food chain. As energy is transferred from producer to consumers, less energy is received. The energy is used by the organism and some released as heat. Very good. So, changes in the population on one organism affects the population of another organisms, such in the case of prey and predator relationships. So, changes in abiotic factor like extreme temperatures and occurrence of calamities like severe weather, earthquakes, and volcanic eruption affects the population of organisms. Very good. Okay, so for the next meeting, I want you all to bring these materials. It will also serve as your assignment. So, first is 2 small clear jars with covers, and take note, and with holes all over. Next is at least 3 large clay flower pots. Next is the soil, rubber gloves, trowel, microscope, slides and cover slips. Next is the magnifying lens, pole for aerating and composting materials, wire covers for the clay pots. So, bring that for the next meeting. So, that's all for today. Thank you so much for your cooperation, class. So, see you next meeting, on the next meeting. And I want you all to bring those materials. And thank you so much for your cooperation. God bless us all. Bye! Okay na.